The room smelled like champagne and expensive flowers when Mrs. Hawthorne raised her crystal glass and smiled like she owned the air. "Tonight," she announced, "my son will choose his future wife." People laughed politely. Cameras flashed. The string quartet kept playing, as if they were paid to drown out discomfort. Then her eyes landed on the maid by the service door, and her smile sharpened. "You," Mrs. Hawthorne said, loud enough for every silk gown to turn. "If you can dance this waltz with my son, you marry him." A hush fell hard, like a curtain dropping. Everyone stared at the young black maid in a plain uniform, holding a tray that suddenly felt too heavy for her hands. And what they didn't know was she used to win championships with that very song. Before we continue, please like and subscribe, and let us know where you're watching from. Her name was Nia Carter, and she was 24 years old. She had warm brown skin, tired eyes that stayed polite even when the world was not, and hands that had learned to be quiet in rich houses. Hands that folded napkins, polished silver, and carried other people's comfort without being seen. She worked at the Hawthorne estate because she had to. Her grandmother, Miss Loretta, was sick and needed medicine that insurance did not cover. Nia also had a bill folder in her backpack, rent, electricity, and a final notice stamped in red that she pretended not to fear. But there was another thing in her bag, wrapped inside a clean dish towel like it was fragile. Dance shoes, worn soft at the toes, the soles scuffed from practice on cheap studio floors. She did not bring them to show off. She brought them because she could not stop being who she was, even if she had to hide it. Dancing was the one place where her chest felt wide enough to breathe. She had learned ballroom from an old community center instructor who believed in posture and patience. Later, she earned a scholarship to a small dance academy, until her money ran out and her grandmother fell ill. Now she practiced alone at night in her tiny apartment, counting steps silently so the downstairs neighbor would not bang on the ceiling. That afternoon, Nia arrived at the Hawthorne estate early because there was a charity gala, Mrs. Hawthorne's favorite kind of event, where generosity looked good under chandeliers. Nia tied her hair into a neat bun and pinned her name tag straight. The head housekeeper, Miss Sloane, inspected her like a piece of furniture. "Keep your eyes low," Miss Sloane warned. "Smile, but don't linger. This crowd does not like reminders that work exists." Nia nodded. She always nodded. She learned long ago that arguments cost jobs. At the back hallway near the pantry, she noticed three things without trying. A small security camera above the archway angled toward the ballroom doors, a black velvet jewelry case sitting on a side table with a gold clasp, and a glossy event program with a fancy headline, "The Hawthorne Waltz, a tradition of choosing." Someone had scribbled a note on the program with a sharp pen. Song number 3, after speech. Keep doors closed. Nia did not know why those details mattered. She only knew she had a habit of noticing. When you live carefully, you watch everything. The guests arrived like a wave of perfume and confidence. Their laughter bounced off marble. Their shoes did not squeak. Their hands did not shake when they held glasses. Nia moved between them like a shadow carrying trays of tiny pastries that tasted like nothing to her, because she never got to eat them. Then the Hawthornes entered. Mr. Hawthorne came first, tall and quiet, with a face that looked tired in a way money could not fix. Mrs. Hawthorne followed, draped in jewels, her smile practiced and sharp, and beside her walked their son, Damien Hawthorne. Damien was 28, handsome in a careful way, with dark hair combed neatly and a suit that probably cost more than Nia's rent for a year. He looked like the type of man people wrote articles about. Young heir with a bright future. But when his eyes swept the room, they didn't sparkle. They scanned, as if searching for the nearest exit. Damien spoke to donors, shook hands, posed for photos, and laughed at the right times. Yet his shoulders stayed tense, like someone wearing a coat that didn't fit. When Nia passed behind a group of guests, she heard two women whisper. "Mrs. Hawthorne is serious about the waltz," one said, amused. "She's been auditioning girls for months." "Auditioning," the other repeated, as if tasting the word, as if love is a job. Nia kept walking, but her stomach tightened. She knew what it was like to be evaluated like you were not human. The speeches began. A microphone squealed softly. Mrs. Hawthorne took the stage and talked about charity and legacy and the importance of tradition. People clapped like trained birds. Then she gestured to the quartet. "And now," she said sweetly, "the waltz." A murmur rose. Guests turned their attention to the center floor. Damien stepped forward obediently, like a soldier called to line up. Mrs. Hawthorne's gaze swept the room. She pointed at a young woman in a pale dress. "You first, dear." The woman giggled nervously, went to Damien, and they danced. She kept stepping on his shoes. People smiled politely. Mrs. Hawthorne nodded like a judge. Another woman tried. Then another. Some did well. Some were stiff. All of them looked like they were trying to impress a woman more than a man. Nia stood by the service door holding her tray, her face calm, her fingers tight around the silver edge. Then Mrs. Hawthorne's eyes drifted past the guests and landed on Nia. It was the kind of look that measured a person and decided they were small. She smiled wider. "You," she said. At first, Nia thought Mrs. Hawthorne meant someone behind her. Nia glanced over her shoulder. Nobody was there. Mrs. Hawthorne laughed lightly. "Yes, you. The maid." The room turned. A heat crawled up Nia's neck. Her instinct was to step back, to disappear into the hallway, to let the moment pass over her like a storm. But Mrs. Hawthorne's voice pinned her in place. "If you can dance this waltz with my son," Mrs. Hawthorne announced, "you marry him." A few people chuckled, unsure if they were allowed to. Others went quiet, their smiles stuck halfway. Damien's head snapped toward his mother. "Mom." Mrs. Hawthorne raised a finger, still smiling. "It's harmless fun. Or are you afraid she'll outshine your little parade of socialites?" Damien's jaw tightened. He looked at Nia. For a second, his eyes softened, like he could see her embarrassment and did not like it. Nia swallowed. "Ma'am, I'm working." Mrs. Hawthorne's brows lifted. "So are we. We're working on Damien's future. Come on. Don't be shy. You should be grateful to be included." The word grateful landed like a stone. Nia felt the weight of every job interview she'd ever had where her smile mattered more than her skills. Every time she'd been told she was lucky to have work, as if dignity was a gift. She set her tray carefully on a nearby table. Her hands did not shake, even though her heart did. She walked forward. A man near the front whispered to his companion, "This is cruel." His companion answered softly, "She should just refuse." But refusal was not simple when your rent was due and your supervisor was watching like a hawk. Miss Sloane stood near the side, arms crossed. Her lips pressed together, but she did not speak. Nia reached the dance floor. The music, song number 3, began again, the one she recognized by the opening sweep of the strings. Her chest tightened, not from fear now, but from memory. This was the waltz she used to dance in competitions. Damien offered his hand, hesitant, like he was unsure whether touching her would offend the room or his mother. Nia looked at his hand, then at his face. "Do you want this?" His voice dropped low, for her ears only. "No, but my mother doesn't hear the word no." Nia nodded once. "Then let's keep it simple." She placed her hand in his. Her other hand rested lightly on his shoulder. She stood straight without forcing it. Her chin lifted naturally, not as defiance, but as alignment, like her spine remembered who she was. The first step was quiet, a simple glide. The second step was smoother. By the third step, the air shifted. Nia's feet knew where to go. Not because she was showing off, but because it was the only honest thing she could do. She let her own balance, guided Damien with gentle pressure, and turned with the music as if it had been waiting for her. Damien blinked, surprised. He adjusted, then followed, his posture improving as if her calm was teaching him. People started whispering, "Is she trained? She's moving like a professional." "I've seen that frame before." Mrs. Hawthorne's smile flickered. Nia did not look at her. Nia did not look at the crowd. She focused on the dance. The way she used to win her world was a small polished floor and a judge's clipboard. Damien's voice came again, softer. "You're incredible. Nia's lips barely moved. Just follow. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. They turned. The strings rose. Nia's skirt shifted with emotion. Her breath stayed steady. Her face stayed calm, even as the room began to feel like it was holding its breath. And something else happened. Something nobody planned. Damien started to smile. Not the polite smile he wore for photos, but a real one that loosened his shoulders. For the first time all night, he looked like himself. When the music ended, there was a pause, like the room needed a second to remember how to react. Then scattered claps began. Not loud, not unanimous, but honest. A few guests looked uncomfortable, as if applauding her meant admitting something about their own assumptions. Mrs. Hawthorne's face hardened under the jewelry. She stepped forward, clapping slowly, with a sharp little sound. "Well," she said, "what a surprise." Her eyes slid over Nia's uniform, like it was an insult to the ballroom. "Tell me, where did you learn to dance like that? Are you hiding a secret life? Or did you practice while you were supposed to be polishing my silver?" A small laugh rippled, nervous and thin. Nia answered evenly. "I practiced after work, on my own time." Mrs. Hawthorne's smile turned cold. "After work," she repeated. "How ambitious." Then, with a smoothness that looked like grace, she reached to the side table and lifted the black velvet jewelry case. She opened it. The inside was empty. Her voice sharpened. "Interesting, because my diamond bracelet was in this case 15 minutes ago." The clapping stopped like someone slammed a door. Heads turned again. Eyes narrowed. A new kind of silence arrived, one that tasted like suspicion. Miss Sloane stiffened. "Mrs. Hawthorne." Mrs. Hawthorne raised her hand. "Call security." Damien stepped forward fast. "Mom, stop it." Mrs. Hawthorne turned on him, still smiling for the crowd. "This is not about you. This is about my home and my property." Two security guards moved in from a hallway. Nia's stomach dropped, but her face remained still. Inside her, a voice screamed, "Not like this. Not after paying bills and swallowing pride and working so hard." The older guests watched with the calm interest people had when trouble didn't belong to them. A woman whispered, "This is why staff should not get comfortable." Another man frowned. She was right there. She didn't go near the table. Mrs. Hawthorne's eyes never left Nia. "Empty your pockets," she said, "and your bag. Now." Nia looked toward Miss Sloane, but Miss Sloane's face was tight, unsure, trapped between her boss and her conscience. Nia took one breath, then another. "I didn't take it," Nia said. Mrs. Hawthorne's smile widened. "That's what people say." Damien spoke through clenched teeth. "Mother, you're humiliating her." Mrs. Hawthorne leaned close to him, still appearing sweet to everyone else. "I'm protecting you. A girl like that doesn't belong in your world. Let them see it. Let them remember." Nia heard it. She pretended she didn't. Sometimes hearing the truth was its own kind of pain. Security moved closer. One guard extended his hand. "Ma'am, we need you to comply." Nia's fingers curled once, then relaxed. She knew what it looked like when someone didn't comply. She knew how quickly a calm moment could turn dangerous. She knew how suspicious could be shaped by fear and bias. She lifted her chin. "You may search my pockets, but not my dignity." Mrs. Hawthorne laughed softly. "Dignity doesn't pay rent, dear." The words hit Nia like a slap. Her mind flashed to her grandmother's pharmacy receipt, the red stamped notice, the feeling of counting coins. But Nia did not flinch. She slowly turned her apron pockets out. Nothing. She showed her uniform pockets. Empty. Mrs. Hawthorne's eyes narrowed. The bag. Nia's bag sat behind the service door, where staff kept personal items. Miss Sloane started to move, then stopped, as if afraid of what she might become if she chose a side. Nia walked to her bag herself. She unzipped it carefully. Inside was the bill folder, a small container of rice, a plain water bottle, and her dance shoes wrapped in the dish towel. A few guests leaned forward, curious. Mrs. Hawthorne's eyes brightened like she had found a new weapon. "Shoes," she said loudly. "So you did come prepared to perform for us." Nia ignored the jab. She lifted the folder slightly, so it didn't spill. "My bills," she said quietly, more to herself than to them. Mrs. Hawthorne waved her hand. "Spare us the sob story. Search it." The guard reached in. His hand touched the towel, then the shoes. He kept going. Then his fingers brushed something hard and smooth, hidden in a small side pocket. He pulled it out. A diamond bracelet caught the light. The room gasped. Nia froze. Her chest tightened so fast it felt like her lungs forgot their job. "That's it," someone whispered. "That's the bracelet." Mrs. Hawthorne's face flashed with triumph. "There it is," she said. "Right where I expected." Damien stared, stunned. "Nia." Nia's voice stayed calm, but it came out thinner than before. "I didn't put that there." Mrs. Hawthorne stepped closer, her voice suddenly gentle, almost kind. "Of course you didn't. It fell into your bag all by itself." Security's grip tightened on the bracelet. The guard looked unsure now, because even he could feel something was off. Nia's mind raced. She remembered the note on the program, the camera above the archway, the jewelry case on a side table. The doors closed. She raised her eyes to the guard. "Sir," she said softly, "before you decide anything, may we check the hallway camera by the pantry?" Mrs. Hawthorne's smile faltered. "There's no need." Damien stepped forward immediately. "There's a need. Check the camera." Mrs. Hawthorne's voice sharpened. "Damien." He didn't back down. "Enough." The guard hesitated, then nodded to another guard. "Get the feed." Miss Sloane finally spoke, her voice tight. "The camera points right at that table." Mrs. Hawthorne's eyes flicked toward Ms. Sloane like a warning. A minute passed that felt like an hour. People whispered in little clusters. Some looked away as if they didn't want to be responsible for what happened next. Others watched like it was entertainment. Nia stood still. She did not cry. She did not beg. She had learned that begging made some people feel powerful. A proverb her grandmother used to say came back to her, clear as a bell. A quiet river still has a deep bottom. A staff member arrived with a tablet connected to the security system. The guard tapped, rewound, and played. The hallway appeared on the screen. The side table. The jewelry case. The service door. Nia moving past with her tray, never stopping. Miss Sloane walking by. Guests passing. Then, on the video, Mrs. Hawthorne herself entered the hallway alone. She looked around. She opened the jewelry case, removed the bracelet, and slipped it into her gloved hand. Then she walked to Nia's bag. She unzipped it. She looked at the camera once, as if she forgot it existed, then shoved the bracelet into the side pocket and closed the zipper. The tablet froze the room. Someone made a small sound, like a breath breaking. Damien's face went pale. "Mom." Mrs. Hawthorne didn't move at first. Her smile was gone. All that was left was a tight, fragile anger, like glass about to crack. "That footage is out of context," she said quickly. "You don't understand." Miss Sloane's voice was low, shaken. "Mrs. Hawthorne, you planted it." The crowd shifted, discomfort turning into a quiet wave of disapproval. A few donors stepped back, as if distance could protect their reputations. One woman, who had laughed earlier, stared at her own hands. "That's unforgivable," Mrs. Hawthorne snapped. "You're all being dramatic." But even she could hear the room changing. Reputation is a mirror, and once it cracks, people see the pieces. The guard looked at Nia, then at Mrs. Hawthorne. His voice turned formal. "Ma'am, we need to document this." Mrs. Hawthorne's chin lifted. "I am Mrs. Hawthorne." The guard didn't blink. "And that is evidence." Damien stepped toward Nia. His voice was hoarse. "I'm sorry. I swear I didn't know." Nia met his eyes. "I believe you," she said, "but belief doesn't erase damage." Mrs. Hawthorne turned toward Damien, her voice sharp with panic now. "Damien, fix this. Say something. Tell them," she forced. Damien's eyes flashed. "No, you did this." A man in the crowd cleared his throat. He was older, with silver hair and calm posture, someone who looked used to being listened to. He stepped forward and held up his phone. "I knew I recognized her," he said, nodding toward Nia. Nia Carter. Nia blinked. Sir, he smiled gently. Professor Lennox. I judged the Regional Ballroom Championship 3 years ago. You won the waltz division. First place. Whispers rose again, but this time they sounded different, less suspicious, more stunned. Professor Lennox looked around the room. It takes discipline to dance the way she did. Discipline and character. And if anyone thinks discipline belongs only to people in suits, they've been paying for mirrors instead of truth. Mrs. Hawthorne's mouth opened, but no words came. Nia stood there, feeling the strange moment of being seen, without begging for it. Another proverb surfaced in her mind, one she had written in her notebook when she was younger. Gold does not prove worth. Fire does. Miss Sloane stepped forward, swallowing hard. Nia, I'm sorry. I should have spoken sooner. Nia's eyes softened slightly. Yes, she said. You should have. Damien turned to the room, voice steady now. This event is over. Anyone who came for charity, I'll make the donation myself. But I won't let my mother destroy someone to protect her pride. Mrs. Hawthorne's face tightened like she'd been slapped. You would choose a maid over your family. Damien's answer was quiet, but it carried. I'm choosing decency over cruelty. The room shifted again. Some people looked relieved, as if someone finally said what they were afraid to say. Others looked embarrassed, because they had watched and done nothing. The guards escorted Mrs. Hawthorne away from the center, not in handcuffs, not in drama, but in public consequence, which can feel heavier than metal. Nia exhaled slowly. Her legs trembled now that the danger had passed, but she stayed standing. She had learned something else too. When a storm passes, the tree still decides how to stand. Damien approached her again, careful. Nia, I can help. With your grandmother. With your bills. I can. Nia raised a hand gently. Don't, she said. Not like that. He looked wounded. Then how? Nia's voice softened. If you want to do something, do it right. Not charity that makes you feel better. Justice that changes something. He nodded slowly. Tell me what you need. Nia thought of her grandmother. Her dance shoes. The scholarship she lost. The nights she practiced alone, refusing to let her dream die. I need my job, she said, and a recommendation to a place that will respect me. Also, I need my life back. Damien swallowed. You'll have it. The next morning, Nia arrived for work expecting punishment, because fear doesn't vanish in one night. Instead, Mr. Hawthorne met her in the foyer. He looked older than he had at the gala, like the truth had taken weight from his shoulders and placed it on his face. I saw the footage, he said quietly. I'm sorry you experienced that in my home. Nia nodded once. I won't excuse it, he continued, but I will correct what I can. You will be paid for the month, and if you choose to leave, you will have a written recommendation from me. Also, Professor Lennox called. He asked to meet you at his studio. Nia's heart stuttered. Why? Mr. Hawthorne gave a small, tired smile. Because he said talent should not be buried under uniforms. Nia walked out of the estate that day with her head high, not because she had won a rich man's attention, but because she had kept her dignity when someone tried to steal it. At Professor Lennox's studio, the floor was polished, the mirrors honest, and the air smelled like hard work instead of perfume. He offered her a part-time teaching role and helped her apply for a renewed scholarship program that supported dancers who had been forced to pause their education. Damien kept his promise too. He arranged for Miss Loretta's medication to be covered through a quiet community fund with no cameras, no headlines, no public applause, just help done right. Nia did not marry Damien. She did not become anyone's prize. She became what she had always been underneath the uniform, a woman with skill, discipline, and a future that belonged to her. Because the truth is simple. A person's worth does not change because of the clothes they wear. And pride can rent a mansion, but it cannot buy respect. If this story touched you, drop a comment with what you would have done in that ballroom. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a reminder that dignity is priceless.